All right, the difference is now between systems of inequalities or linear inequalities and graphing a linear equation and systems of linear equation is that for this now, we're no longer using the equal sign. Remember, the equal sign is what makes it an equation. All right? We no longer use the equal sign anymore. All right? Now we're going to use what's called the inequalities. All right? So therefore, it's going to transition from y equals mx plus b until now we're substituting the equal sign for the inequalities. All right? You have your inequalities like such. You have that which represents what? Greater than. Greater than. All right, now greater than simply says that if we see the greater than without an equal sign, this tells us that it will not be part of the solution. Anybody know what not part of the solution means? Anybody know what that means? Not know, you know what it means, or you don't know what it means? Okay.
That it's not, it has to be greater than.
Right. So in other words, that it's going to be larger than that number, but it's not going to what? Include it or equal that number. So it has to be greater, but not included that number. That number is not included in the solution. Or we want everything greater than that particular number. That's what not part of the solution is. Now, when you see this inequality greater than, which means not part of the solution, it requires a certain type of symbol. The certain type of symbol that is going to use when graphing the line requires a dotted line. Whether it's a positive line, whether it's a negative line, is going to require a dotted line. Whether it has a zero slope, which is a horizontal line, it requires a dotted line. Even if it has a undefined slope, which is a vertical line, it's going to be dotted if it does not have an equal sign. This simply says that it is not part of the solution. When we dealt with inequalities in the past, what symbol did we use to represent inequalities, or less than or greater than? Closed circle, open circle. Well, in this case, which one will we use? Open circle. We will use an open circle, which is the same thing. It simply represents the same thing, that is not included as part of the solution. That's what it represents in terms of graphing it as a function. Are we clear on that? Okay, good. The next type of inequality symbol we have would be less than. All right, we have less than. Well, if greater than doesn't contain an equal sign and it is not part of the solution, what do you think less than is going to be? Same thing, not part of the solution. And guess what type of line that this will require? It also requires a dotted line, whether it's a positive dotted line, a negative, it has just a horizontal line or a slope of 0, or it's an undefined slope where it's vertical. It still requires a dotted line. And this will have what type of circle if it was graphing or solving equations, inequalities here? It would also have an open circle. So therefore, when we're doing inequalities to solve, then therefore here we would use circles or open circles. But because we're graphing and we're doing linear functions, we have to use dotted lines to represent it this time, which simply means that it is not part of the solution. Is that clear? Okay, good. And that's two types of inequalities that we have are going to be, all right, greater than or equal to. So we have greater than or equal to. Which of course for this one, what do you think it's going to be? This will be part of the solution. All right, this will be part of the solution. And what type of indication will we use for this one? We're going to use a solid line. That means it's just a straight solid line, no dots, whether it's a positive line, whether it's a negative line, whether it has a slope of 0, which is a horizontal line, or it has an undefined slope, which would be a vertical line. It requires a solid line. What would be the indication if we were solving for inequalities and not doing linear functions? And this would be a closed circle. Okay, this would be a closed circle. We are here, we would have, again, less than now equal to. Less than or equal to. Again, the indication of it would be our solid lines, or again, closed circle. If this was inequalities, if we were solving inequalities, because we're dealing with functions, here we have a solid line. And this will also be part of the solution. Part of the solution means that if it's greater than, I want everything bigger than this number and what? Including the number. If it is less than or equal to, I want everything less than this number and what? Including the number. That's what part of the solution is. Are we clear on that?
Yes.
Questions?